Welcome back to the Padilla Family Homestead. Today is a requested video. I get requested all the time on what do I do with all the cabbage that we buy from Azure Standard. So today I'm going to take you through 3 easy recipes that I do for cabbage. So the first one you're going to see just right here, I'm literally making cabbage steaks. I take it and I make like 1-inch slices, 1/2-inch slices, put them on a baking sheet, add some avocado oil and a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper to each one. And then I pop it in the oven at 400 until fork tender. That is all I do. It is super simple. It is super delicious. I forgot to take a picture when it popped out of the oven, but it's super good. Now, what I normally pair this with is just some hamburger patties. So we have a protein to go with our cabbage. And on this day, we ended up doing a taste test. So we had 15% fat grass-fed, 1 pound of grass-fed beef, and then we did a package of corn-fed beef, and just we're trying to decide which one we liked better, and this actually had interesting results. Me and my friend, she wanted half turkey burger and half hamburger, so I made those for her this day as well. You'll see that off to the side, but she tried the grass-fed and the corn-fed as well, just to put in her 2 cents while we were trying it, and I found it interesting. So surprisingly, the flavor of the grass-fed was just slightly, like very slightly better. But to me, it was the texture of the grass-fed that I really liked a lot more. So my husband was like, I don't care, it's meat. There wasn't that big of a difference for him. So there isn't a big deal on which one I make. But for me, texture wise, I really like the grass-fed better. So we just served the cabbage steaks with, hamburger patties, with a little bit of balsamic on top, and it's delicious. And as I said, I forgot to take a picture of those cabbage steaks coming out of the oven. But the next meal we're going to work on is a stir fry. Now, I've done a standalone video on stir fry before. My stir fry changes all the time. It pretty much is in a big skillet or in our cast iron wok. And I always start with some avocado oil, onions, bell peppers, and then I start going into whatever vegetables we have on hand. So sometimes that's beets, sometimes that's turnips. I have done radishes. There's all different kinds of vegetables you can pop in here. I usually like to add towards the end some fresh green beans or some sugar snap peas, but I didn't have any this day, and so I did not add them. We pretty much did onions, bell peppers, turnips, yellow beets, and carrots in this one. So it was very like yellow orangey color. And then we topped it with the cabbage. Now, one thing I will say when doing this, one of the things I've really noticed about stir fry is to do different shapes and different textures. So I purposely do my onions longer and skinnier, more like julienne, I guess. And then same thing with my bell peppers. And then my turnips or radishes, usually if I'm doing radishes, I'll do circles. My turnips, I'll do half circles. And then my carrots, I peel into it. and try to give little strips. And this adds a whole nother level when it comes to being texturally pleasing when eating it. So colors are great because, I mean, we eat with our eyes, but also texture is really important. All these things cook at different times. And so that's something I heard from somewhere, and I tried it, and we actually really like it a lot more. So what I'm adding to it for sauce is our balsamic from High Hand. It's a dark cilantro garlic balsamic, and it is delicious as a stir fry. The cast irons are super seasoned, so it doesn't seem to have issues with balsamic. I've been using them for years in cast iron, but if you do have issues, you could do this in a regular stainless steel pan. So I start cooking it down a little bit. With that, I think I added some salt at this point too, just a touch of salt, and some pepper. And then I start chopping up some cabbage and putting it in to let it start cooking down. Now, if you're not a fan of balsamic vinegar or can't find this dark cilantro garlic balsamic, because not all balsamics are going to taste good in this, you can use coconut aminos. That's one of our favorite things to use as well. So my husband's sugar had been higher this week, and we wanted to make sure that we really added in some balsamic to help lower that a little bit and stabilize it. On this day, we ended up adding shrimp, and it was delicious. Sometimes we do it with some brown rice and mullet noodles, but the shrimp was good. And that's pretty much how basic and simple stir fry is. The next recipe is even easier. I took a package of bone broth, chicken bone broth, because we didn't have any on hand. And I ended up adding some water. I don't normally add the water, but I only had one package of the broth and I needed like two. So I did add the water this time around, but it's better with all broth. Then I cut up a kielbasa sausage and popped it in the broth, and I started chopping up some cabbage and put it in there, and I'm just gonna let this cook down. I'll stir it occasionally. My goal is to make sure the sausage is cooked and heated through and the cabbage is softened. And at first I wasn't gonna add any salt. I did end up adding a little bit, and I added some pepper. Because sausage has its own salt and different broths have different salt content, so I always usually wait a little bit, but it definitely needed the salt. You cook it down till it's tender, and man, this is just such a simple yet delicious way to use cabbage. If you've never had this, it is super good, and we're coming into the right season for it. So that's it. I hope that you enjoyed, and we'll see you back here on the next video.